This is Chichester Cemetery in the county of Sussex in the south of England. As always in these cemeteries in England, we find these memorials, the war graves to those that died in the two great conflicts. J. Rapsam, Stoker, Petty Officer, Royal Navy, HMS Nubian, October 1916, aged 33. The Nubian was torpedoed in the battle known as the Battle of Dover Strait in October 1916. It is a very windy day today, so I hope you don't get too much noise on the microphone. 3 memorials here in metal. They haven't done particularly well. The inscriptions are very difficult to make out, but it's interesting to see metal memorials. By far the vast majority are in stone. This is probably the most readable, and then at the bottom here we can see that it has been re-inscribed at some time with the black writing on top of the former white stenciling. It hasn't worked very well. The surname is Ayling, A-Y-L-I-N-G, and we seem to have Richard and Ada. So nice to see the metal memorials, but because they're stenciled to paint, they don't seem to last as long as the stone ones. This is a large granite stone. The inscription appears to be on stick-on letters, but they seem to be stuck really well. It does make a very clear inscription. At the top we've got Henry John Gates and Fanny Joanna Brown Gates, or possibly Cates. And then beneath it we have 5 of their children: 1916, 1933, 1942, 64 and 82. This one to Air Mechanic John Edward Shirley is a very early Royal Air Force memorial, 1918 July. The Royal Air Force was only formed 3 or 4 months before from the Royal Flying Corps. So this is the Royal Air Force, July 1918, and he was 39 years old. Here we have a chap from New Zealand, C.B. Mansell of the Otago Regiment, 1915, aged 22. A group here of around 30 of the war graves. This one appears to be a German grave, Joseph Ettenauer, with the cross at the top, quite possibly aircrew that crashed. And next door we have another one, Hans Franz Witkop and Franz Husk. Those 2 gentlemen died on the same day. Again, suspecting an air accident or attack. The rest of the front row here are all UK, British aircrew. All equal, Germans and Brits, all equal in the graveyard. Further back there's a stone here of a different shape, and although it's Royal Air Force Sergeant, the name Jan Wilk, behind we have this one with again a different outline to the stone. This is E.R. Pilch of 302 Squadron, and he was from the Polish forces. On the end we have Flight Sergeant J.D. Luxton. He was a pilot in the Royal Canadian Air Force. Died in 1942, aged 22. This memorial has been cleaned off at the bottom, and we can read the bottom inscription: Flight Lieutenant Jack Lewis of the RAF, died a prisoner of war in Germany, 1943, aged 24 years. The top name, which is still covered in the dirt and lichen or lichen, is Edwin Henry Lewis. further into the cemetery we have another area with a lot of war graves, and the board nearby explains that there was a military hospital here, Graylingwell, during the war, and many servicemen were brought home to the hospital, and of course many died, and hence the number of memorials. On the memorial itself, the main memorial, are names on all the sides of it. You can see some there at the top, lists Canadians, and then round here we come to British, and if you come down, next layer there's British, and right down to the ground floor level are more names of those that are buried here. On other sides we have Australians listed. Then down here we have Canadians, and at the bottom there are some from Czechoslovakia. One of the larger stones in this graveyard, this is to Francis Trollope and various members of his family. Doesn't tell us much about him though, just his basic dates. A little further into this graveyard, and it's not a large graveyard, there's another set of war memorial stones, and here there are another 40 people named. Amongst all the British stones are these three different ones. I think they may be Czechoslovakian, but I can be corrected on that. Miroslav Moravec. Next to him is František Fanta. And over here, I'm not going to try and pronounce that. I think I've got the other two probably wrong anyway. But here we are, three of them in this area of 40 memorials. An area here with the small stones. This is an area for the graves of children. Always a very poignant area. An amazing display here of flowers. This is for a recent funeral for a member of the travelling community, Caroline Goddard, who was in her early 40s, and she died of cancer here in Chichester. Just these flowers upon flowers. The newspaper reports that there were 7 Rolls Royces and 4 lorries in the procession. Presumably the lorries were used to carry all these flowers, and the expense must be enormous. I'll just pan around to the other side of the path here. Caroline Goddard, and some of the memorials say one tough cookie. In this corner of the graveyard there are a number of other graves which are really over decorated by normal standards. I think they're all members of the traveller community. This one, William George Roberts, Billy. On here we have a image of a fairground truck which says Fun Fair on the side. Nearby is this one which says My JH and a heart, and then JH behind. One here, also heavily decorated with the roses, and again at the back we have some images. And this one here with the pink flowers and the young lady or lady in the centre. But down at the front here we have this little model caravan. So again, I think the whole area of this cemetery is dedicated to the traveller community. This one to Jimmy, where it has the flowers, very nice marble stonework. We've got a picture of, or 2 pictures of Jimmy. Here rest the 37 nuns of the former Carmelite convent Hunston, who died between 1872 and 1994. Also the Reverend H. Grave, chaplain, and M. Marest and J. Wallace, the housekeepers. No obvious indication about this small chapel, apart from a broken notice inside, which says it's the mortuary chapel of John Abel Smith, an MP, who died in 1872. A large table tomb here, and you can see some tiled decorations at each end, and she's got the magnificent name of Maria Celestina Rodriguez Mendes Ellis. On the other side we read that her husband was just plain old Ronald Ellis. Well, that is the Chichester Cemetery. I'm going to call a stop there. Sorry about the wind noise on this very blustery day. Remarkable for two things, particularly the number of war memorials, and of course this section where the gypsies were. Till the next time.